Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. Today is Tuesday, March 29th, 2022, and it is 10:01 a.m. Before we get started with our transportation hearing today, please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. Let's take roll. Present in the hearing room, we have commissioners representing District 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. And joining us virtually, we have District 4. Attorney Moser, if you would, please read the docket.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, District 5 is virtual as well. I'm sorry, Commissioner Thomas.
Okay.
I looked to my right, and I thought I saw everyone. I stand corrected. District 5 is virtual as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. My mistake. Attorney Moser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad we clarified that. Good morning, commissioners and parties. We are here today for the proceeding in docket number 2021-385-T regarding the application of All American Relocation Incorporated for the transfer of a Class E household goods certificate of public convenience and necessity, specifically certificate number 6003, from Charlotte Van & Storage Company Incorporated. The proceeding has been scheduled for today, March 29th, 2022 at 10 a.m., and this hearing will be conducted virtually. All parties participating in this matter are present and the docket is in order. Thank you.
All right. Attorney Pringle, anything we need to discuss before you call your first witness?
Mr. Chairman, Jack Pringle for the applicant. I think I have a couple of brief preliminary matters. Let me go ahead and do the document housekeeping first as I transition from one microphone to the next. The company has filed not only an application, but a subsequent set of documents that include a bill of lading and some correspondence with the South Carolina Tariff Bureau that the applicant is joining. And so I'd like to take the application, which has been filed in this docket, but that was filed on December 29th, 2021, and the subsequent correspondence dated March 21st, 2022, which contained a bill of lading, the applicant's tariff agreement with the Tariff Bureau, and the Tariff Bureau limited power of attorney. I'd like for that aggregate of documents to be marked for identification and entered into evidence as the first hearing exhibit.
All right.
Commissioner Belser, do you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, so can his witness authenticate those and lay the foundation once the witness is on the stand?
Certainly.
It can be done that way. I've seen it done both ways.
And I'd be happy to do it that way.
That's fine, whatever.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you fine with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
If you're not, it's okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
All right.
Turning to another point, and this is certainly something, although I believe the ORS doesn't necessarily plan to offer witness testimony. Yesterday, the ORS filed a letter with the commission that it doesn't need to be an exhibit, but I've done it that way in the past. It is in the docket, so we can. I just wanted to bring that to the commissioner's attention.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All
Usually usually I think they address that letter. Usually.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. If I could just briefly before I present my witness, and this is not so much an opening statement as it is just a brief description of this docket and this application. a transfer application, which some of you commissioners may not have seen before. In contrast to a household goods application where a company comes in anew and is applying for a certificate of public convenience and necessity, my client, the applicant, is actually asking the commission to approve a transfer of authority from a carrier, in this instance, Charlotte Van and Storage, that has a certificate to my client. The difference between the two types of proceedings is that in both, the applicant, in this case, All American Relocation, has to demonstrate that it is fit, willing, and able to provide household goods moving services, in this instance, statewide in South Carolina. What is not generally a requirement in a transfer application is that you show, and this is the legalese, that the public convenience and necessity is not currently being served. In practical terms, that there is a demand for moving services. The idea being that in a transfer, that showing to whatever it is has been made, and you are at least in some form or fashion stepping into the, not stepping into the shoes, but that part of the analysis is not required. So the hearing will not be terribly unfamiliar. You hear a lot of the same things, but I'm not so sure that this is something that some of you have encountered before, and I just wanted to set the stage for that as we go through the hearing. But with that in mind, the applicant would present its witness, Mr. Joe Kaufman, who is here virtually.
All right, before we do that, I made another mistake, and I did not recognize the counsel for the Office of Regulatory Staff.
All right.
Counsel for Regulatory Staff?
Donna Rainey, counsel for ORS.
Attorney Rainey, how did you let me overlook you? It's on me.
No comment.
Anything from the Office of Regulatory Staff before Attorney Pringle presents his case?
No, we don't have anything at this time.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Attorney Pringle, please call your first witness.
All right, the witness for All American Relocation is Mr. Joe Kaufman.
Mr. Kaufman, if you would please take the stand, sir. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Pringle, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kaufman, if you would, please state your full name and business address for the record.
Joe Kaufman, and business address, we have two business addresses. 5101 Trademark Drive in Raleigh, North Carolina is where I reside. That's our corporate office. And 5433 Wyoming Avenue in Charlotte is our secondary office and the primary office that would serve in South Carolina.
Okay. What is your position with the company?
I'm the president of the company.
Okay. How long, and I'll back up a second. Tell the commission a little bit about what the company does right now.
We're a full service moving and storage company. We have been under the current ownership for 24 years. We have two owners, John Potts and Brett Plummer. Both have been, they're industry veterans. I have been at the company a little over 5 years. They hired me I've known them for 20 plus years in the industry as a competitor, to kind of run their company. They have stepped back from the day to day. They're here and they know what's going on, but I run the day to day operation for them, which is a full service moving company. We do household goods, we do household goods storage, we do commercial moving and commercial storage, as well as warehousing and asset management. What we're obviously applying for today is to do household goods within the state of South Carolina.
Okay. describe very briefly what current moving authority that you have, that the company has, either intrastate or interstate.
So we are an agent for Mayflower Transit. So we have interstate authority. We're actually award-winning agent for Mayflower Transit. I'm very proud of what we do there. And we currently do intrastate in North Carolina. We have been since existence and for 24 years doing intrastate North Carolina. Actually, both of our owners have served on the board of the North Carolina Movers Association as president of that board over the years. We currently, our general manager and vice president down in Charlotte is currently serving on that board as well. We certainly believe in following the rules and doing that and participating. So the only way to, truly participate is to, step up to those positions. So we have done that as a company for a long time. Does that answer? I could.
That's
additional details. Okay.
That's fantastic. You mentioned that you're an agent for Mayflower. Can you describe Mayflower a little bit and what Mayflower provides for All-American in terms of resources or connections or anything else?
Mayflower is part of Unigroup. Unigroup is the parent company of Mayflower Transit and United Van Lines. The largest household good carrier in the country. For Mayflower, it puts us into that network to handle interstate household goods, a network of 800 plus agents across the country to handle services for us. If it's our client coming, let's say from the West Coast to here, we have relationships out there that would handle the origin services piece of that move, and then obviously we would handle it when it got here. We also have interstate drivers for them in our system. We have drivers that run and pull Mayflower branded trailers and are somewhat partially dispatched by Mayflower Transit to provide household goods, which would be, but sometimes our order, a lot of times not our order. We're just hauling to help the system work, as many of the other agents do. Okay.
Does Mayflower offer any sort of resources to the company in terms of training movers or employees of the organization?
Yes, and we use their system for, regardless of whether that employee is going to be doing Mayflower, related moves or more intra and local type stuff. They have training processes. They have, it's all virtual these days. It was virtual pre-COVID, but it's just virtual training. So it's videos and things like that, online classes and things that our folks take, and then kind of teeing them up for understanding household goods and how to handle, people's goods, how to protect homes and things like that that are important. And then from there, we step them into somewhat what I term as a mentor buddy system where, they're working with, more of our experienced people to kind of learn the ropes in the field. We typically will start them in a warehouse where it's a little more controlled environment before we get them out into the field to handle household goods.
Okay. You mentioned warehouse. Can you describe a little bit of the facilities that the company has to store goods and other things?
Yes, we have in Charlotte. We have a 40,000 square foot facility that has typical household goods storage vaults. Most people call them vaults or containers, the wooden crates that we store stuff in within our warehouse. And in Raleigh, we have actually two buildings here of combined about 110,000 square feet to handle that up in this market.
Okay. And I'll jump I know I'm sort of jumping around a little bit. Describe a little bit about what led to the transaction or the transfer that ended up bringing you to this commission.
Well, Charlotte Van, I guess backing up to a degree, Charlotte Van was owned by Frank Watson. And prior to that, his father and his grandfather. But he, as well as his father, obviously they were a Mayflower agent as well. So there's a relationship and an understanding, I guess a friendly competitive type thing with Charlotte Van and All American ownership dating back because they would meet and see each other at various conventions and things that Mayflower Transit held and still does. So Frank had made a decision to essentially cease business. He was selling his real estate and just kind of getting out of the business. He did not seek to sell the business. He approached John Potts and Brett Plummer, our two owners, about somewhat just absorbing his customers. And so that's what we did. This is going back about a year and a half ago, or a little more than that, actually, when he approached us with it, which was to take over his existing clients. And when he ceased his operation, he would become more business development for us. So he is what we term a contract salesperson for us. If he sells something, we pay him commissions based on that. Some of the clients that he brought over from when Charlotte Van days that we do handle for household goods, interstate, and commercial storage, we pay him for that, for the commissions on that. But he had just had a long relationship with John and Brett and felt that he was mostly interested in making sure his clients, because he was more sales-driven type owner, his clients were taken care of, and he knew that we could do it based on our quality and our reputation, and our ability. So he contacted us for that. So then we began to absorb his customers and have done that. Any of the warehouse customers are in our facility. And then he has several household good interstate moving clients that we serve currently, as he being the salesperson, but we take care of those needs for him. The certificate, it really was not part of original conversation. And then later he said, I have the certificate. Obviously he's not going to use it. So that's when we engaged with him. And then in turn, your services, Mr. Pringle, to see about transferring that over to us, since it was of no use to him anymore. And some of his clients have that need for intrastate that we can't serve.
Okay. Thank you for that description. Moving to the kind of trucks that the company has, can you give a sort of a short list or a description of the vehicles that the company uses to provide moves?
Most of our vehicles are what we term as a straight truck, 24 to 26 foot box truck. Many of them are crew cab, meaning get at least 5 individuals out to a job site. Though roughly 25 to 26 of those type of trucks company wide we have, and then we have 25 plus trailers in our system. Many of them branded Mayflower for those needs, but we use them locally and intrastate as well in North Carolina. And 9 tractors, to move those trailers around. And then in addition to that, we do have owner operators that have their own tractors and trailers. Those are our interstate, mostly our interstate fleet. But it is part of our fleet that we serve customers with.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any box trucks too?
Box trucks, yes, we have box trucks would be that 16, we call them more 16 foot, 12 to 16 foot box trucks. We use them on occasion for household goods. They're, the 24 to 26 foot truck does a whole lot better in our findings with moving household goods. That was a little small, but we do use those at times where we have to do shuttle services, things like that for our clients that are, you get into Asheville and some of those areas in our state, they're difficult to service with even a 26 or 24 foot box truck. So we do have the smaller box trucks in our fleet for that as well.
Okay, and based on your operation on an intrastate and interstate basis, are you familiar with the the safety and inspection requirements that apply to the vehicles that you use for moves?
Yes, we are. We keep all of our vehicles inspected to the requirements of Mayflower Transit, because we really don't know, when that vehicle would need to be used, for that. So, and it makes it a lot easier for us if they're all on that same requirement to get their ICC and DOT inspections and things like that kept up. All of our all might be a little too broad. Some of the vehicles that we don't use for household goods don't apply here, but most of our vehicles have the new state-of-the-art ELDs in them, which also have inward-facing and outward-facing cameras. So those have all been installed over the last 6 months. So we do have to we log our guys every day, regardless of whether they're on an interstate move or not, just again, because if they in turn go and do a Mayflower transit job from here to Virginia, they would have had to have been logging or do a 7-day prior. So we just find it easier to have the guys use the ELDs every day and keep up with that. So, which also keeps up our inspections on the trucks and the requirements and the qualifications to be a Mayflower driver, all those things that are required to be kept up on the driver's side as well.
Sure. And I meant to ask you this a second ago, and it's a term I've been using for probably 20 years, but I just don't know exactly what it means. Why do they call a straight truck a straight truck? Do you know?
Well, I mean, the way I would describe it is because it's not a tractor. The tractor trailer bends.
Oh.
You got the tractor and the trailer, and then a straight truck is just, it doesn't bend.
Yeah.
So it's straight. That's my best description of that.
That will play just fine. Thank you. I'm going to walk over and try a little bit of camera magic and show a couple of pictures to you and just get you to. Can you see that on the screen?
I don't.
Ah.
Now I do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what that is and describe it a little bit?
That would be one of our 26-foot straight trucks that we use for household. That's a household type truck for us, meaning most of our commercial ones have lift gates and stuff like that, although we use them occasionally on household, but they're not necessary. That is an All-American branded one. At the back of the truck, at the bottom, you can't really see it in that picture very well, is the Mayflower logo. So that is a Mayflower qualified unit because it has that logo on it that says Agent for Mayflower Transit, which means it's in the Mayflower system and it's subject to the inspections and everything that I discussed a little bit ago from that standpoint.
Okay, and if this commission granted you the authority that you're seeking here, would that front door, for example, on that truck also bear the ORS or the South Carolina certificate number that you'd be?
Yeah,
granted?
we would put that right under the current door. The current door decals are our operating authority, but for interstate, and we would put that just underneath that.
Right.
In an obvious place. We would put it on both sides.
Okay.
Just because that's what we do.
Sure. For example, you've got a US DOT number, it looks like on here, and a North Carolina Utilities Commission, I believe, number on there.
That number's on the back of the truck.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And then these pictures are there. This picture is in black and white, but can you confirm that Charlotte and Raleigh actually you do live in color there?
Yeah,
okay.
We're in color. That the swoosh on our logo is red, and the writing All-American is blue on that truck.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I'll show you another picture here real quick, going back to our conversation about straight trucks and trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you identify this picture and talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, that's one of our, well, we've used it for both, but it's mainly an interstate unit. But we would use it locally if needed for a large local or intrastate household good move. as well as that tractor that's in front of it.
Okay. And then one more, another. Tell me about that.
It's same. It's a more of a local intrastate household good unit. Obviously Mayflower branded. Per their old requirements, and it would be used. It's a 3-seater. It's good for small, local type moves or a small intrastate move that doesn't require more than 3 men to perform.
Okay. And then I think one more. Tell me about this.
That's just a tip. That's the inside of one of those 26-foot box trucks, kind of for household goods, kind of teed up with the moving pads, the moving equipment. You see the dollies, you see the ladder to be able to build a tier and load that truck. You can't really tell dimensionally from that picture, but there's what we call an attic, so space over the cab. So a ladder is required, a small step ladder is required to load that part of the truck.
Okay.
But that's your typical equipped household good unit at All American.
Okay. The attic, somewhat like U-Haul's grandma's attic. Is that sort of?
I guess that's what that would be. Yes, sir. We do
Okay.
call it an attic.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Talk very briefly about the company's financial ability to take on providing intrastate moves in South Carolina.
Financially, we're a very solid company, and I believe was our financials submitted as part of the application? I'm just curious, but we're a gross revenue roughly around a $17.5 million company. We, again, have all the more than enough of the required insurances. We have regular insurance as far as per cargo and that. We have worker comp. We have an umbrella of multi-million-dollar umbrella that we have for any kind of liability. We have a roughly $500,000, it's a hair under that, of equipment line of credit. So to purchase trucks and things like that we would need to serve our clients. And we have a $750,000 regular line of credit, just business line of credit that I'm proud to say we're not in at all, but it is there for both of those are through our bank, PNC, to provide us the ability to serve customers and not be held back by any financial means or strings, I should say. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, and I'll represent to you that the application did include a balance sheet.
Okay, I thought it did.
Company balance sheet. Okay. Talk very briefly or a little bit about the kind of damage coverage that you will offer customers in connection with moves.
Well, the required 60 cents per pound, and that is as similar as it is in North Carolina and actually on an interstate basis. For a reason, 60 cents per pound got put out in the moving industry and is stuck. That's the baseline. That's again required by us at no charge, is the way I would explain to customers. We always encourage our customers to get what we term replacement value coverage, for their goods while they're in transit, while we're doing anything really more than just transit. We typically base that on $6 per pound based on the weight of the shipment. And as far as the level that the customer, we recommend them purchasing. And then we typically charge 75 cents per $100 of coverage for that coverage. Again, explained, we would prefer to explain to a customer up front how little that 60 cents per pound really is. because most people feel like, oh, it's coverage and the state is saying you have to have it, so it should be good enough. And it's just simply not. So we certainly encourage our customers to look at a more replacement type value coverage. And, you know, again, but per the tariff, we would offer the 60 cents per pound in addition if they did not want a cost option.
Okay. And then what rates do you plan to charge upon if you're certified by this commission?
Well, we're going to use the South Carolina Tariff Bureau rates, their tariff. So the rates that are stated in that.
Okay. And you actually got me to file both a tariff agreement with the South Carolina Tariff Bureau and a limited power of attorney with the South Carolina Tariff Bureau with this commission, did you not?
Correct. Yes, sir.
As well as the company's bill of lading?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Talk a little bit, just briefly about, have you gotten requests? Well, let me back up a second. You've talked a little bit about your Charlotte office and facility. Based on your understanding, how far is that from that office or that facility from South Carolina?
As the crow flies, maybe 4 miles, 3 or 4 miles. We're on the south side of Charlotte, so we're kind of right there on top of the border. We have several actually employees that live in South Carolina because it's an easier commute than, up into north side of Charlotte or things like that. So,
okay.
But I would say roughly there. When I'm down there, we're right near, we're off of Westinghouse and near 160, and 160 runs right across the border there, not far from that intersection.
Okay. And have you gotten requests for South Carolina intrastate moves that you can't do right now?
Yeah, currently through Frank Watson's, him coming over with Charlotte Van with his particular clients, he has clients that he's done those for in the past, as well as we've had clients that we had prior to the bringing him on board that we've had. What we do is we utilize a United Van Lines or a Mayflower agent that's already in the state to help us with those moves when we have a client need that we don't want to turn away because they're a long-term client or things like that. We also have, one particular salesperson that lives in South Carolina is very well connected that comes across opportunities that we can't service. She's well networked within some retirement communities and things like that. So most of them would be local or certainly intra opportunities in South Carolina that we don't service.
Okay. And as I think you testified a little bit earlier, does the company have the resources to extend its authority into South Carolina?
They absolutely do.
Okay.
Yes.
And you talked some about the interstate moves that you've been doing for some time. Have you moved in South Carolina? And when I say moved in South Carolina, I don't mean from one place in South Carolina to another place in South Carolina, but done moves that have either South Carolina as a starting point or an ending point and the opposite in another state?
Yes. Countless times over the 24 years that we've been in business through Mayflower, having either origin or destination within the state of South Carolina. We quite often move. I see a lot from Raleigh. It seems that there's a lot of people that migrate down towards Hilton Head and that area, and we do those interstate. I see those on our books, quite often. And then we've actually had, because of relationships and stuff, people down in that area that we have moved up to North Carolina for them.
Okay. And we talked about a little bit about this before. You worked with me to file an application with this commission to seek approval of this transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And that included your articles of incorporation and your certificate of authority to do business in South Carolina? If you
Yes,
can
sir.
give, yeah, and a balance sheet. Just go ahead and
Yes.
respond after each, yeah. And,
Yes, sir.
and a letter from the North Carolina Utilities Commission confirming that you have intrastate authority there.
Yes,
And an equipment list.
yes,
And you touched on this a little bit, but you also filed with that application certificates of liability insurance for both cargo and, sort of general liability. Is that correct?
yes, we did.
Okay. And then you also filed a number of bills of lading from Charlotte Van and Storage. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not there was that you had a full 12 months of bills of lading in that?
I believe that there was 12 months of them, from my recollection, yes.
Okay, but talk a little bit about whether or not there were, and I've got to go back and look at it too, is whether or not you had 12 months that went right up to the date that we filed this application.
Yeah, I don't know that it wouldn't have, because I believe, you're looking at when they ceased doing business, which was April 1st of last year. And, I hadn't engaged you at that point. So, I think they had business running up to that point.
Mhm.
They quit looking at business prior to April 1 because they couldn't talk to a customer in, January that was going to move in April intrastate, because they wouldn't have been around to do it. So it kind of by attrition kind of went away, a lot of that business towards the end of their running their business as Charlotte Van.
Yeah.
So it probably would safe to say it trickled down. So, gathering 12 consecutive months up to that would have been probably difficult.
Okay.
I know I saw several bill of ladings that were, submitted in, as part of the testimony, but I can't say for certain if it was exactly 12 months or that. I know there were 10 to 12 documents. What exactly they were, without going back and looking, I can't remember.
But based on your understanding, they were operating before they decided to do business with you and to try to transfer what they had to you.
They absolutely were.
Okay. All right. Is there anything I asked you or I didn't ask you that I should have?
Not that I can think of at this moment.
Okay. I appreciate your testimony. Please answer any questions that the Office of Regulatory Staff or the commissioners may have for you.
Yes, sir.
And I guess, Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'd like to, if it made sense, to have the application and then I guess I could call it the March 21st supplement to the application marked for identification and entered as a hearing exhibit.
All right, we will mark the application as hearing exhibit 1 and enter it into the record as the same. We'll mark the supplements to the application as hearing exhibit 2, and it will be a composite exhibit including the bill of lading, the SC Tariff Bureau Tariff Agreement, and the limited power of attorney executed by the applicant in connection with the South Carolina Tariff Bureau membership. That
Thank you,
will
Mr.
be
Chairman.
hearing exhibit number 2 and entered into the record as the same. And I think that should cover it. Attorney Rainey, do you have any cross-examination of this witness?
No questions.
No questions from Attorney
Okay.
Rainey. All right, thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, questions for this witness?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Powers, you have the floor, sir.
thank you. First, let me compliment you on a very, very thorough application. But in your testimony, you testified that whenever there was an intrastate move in South Carolina, that you had plenty of other people to call who could handle those moves. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say there are options for us. You know, those were only in situations where it was a client that a long-term client that we needed to satisfy that need because we handled all of their corporate household goods for them. So we would find, but we typically on a COD, a residential, someone paying for themselves, we would just tell them we don't do that business and let them seek someone on their own.
So, I mean, as far as seeking that business, can you tell me about what public convenience and necessity exists for another carrier to be added?
Based on the business that is out there for us to do from our sales folks that work within that state, we turn down, I would say cleanly and confidently say several a month that we tell them we cannot serve.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Yes. Mhm.
Vice Chair Belzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Kaufman. How are you today?
I'm good. Hope you are.
Fine. I appreciate your testimony this morning. Have you seen the physical certificate that you are asking to be transferred to your company?
Yes, I have.
Do you have a copy of that?
I'm sorry, I do not. I might be able to. I'm not sure how quick I could put my hands on
No,
it, but I do not have it.
That's okay. My question is, the application seeks transfer of certificate number 6003. Do you have any recollection as to whether or not that has a letter designation following the certificate number?
I don't believe it does. I believe it was just 6003 from my recollection.
Okay. Would you accept, and maybe Mr. Pringle can follow up on this, that perhaps that needs to be 6003-A, because there is an order that transfers that certificate from Mr. Bivens to Charlotte Van and Storage.
Commissioner Belzer, you may be absolutely correct about that, and we'll consult the DMS, and
I think that it may be old enough that it's not on there, but would you accept, subject to check, that it may need to be 6003-A that is being transferred?
I would accept that subject to check and subject to that I'm not actually on the stand,
true.
but yes, and as long as we can, clarify it that
Well,
way.
and I note that in the tariff agreement, Mr. Kaufman, do you have the paperwork that was filed on March 21st that contained the bill of lading and the tariff agreement? Do you have a copy of that available to you?
I have a copy of the tariff that we
Okay,
submitted, yes, with our name on it.
no, it's not. It's the tariff agreement that you signed and Mr. Nottingham signed, I think, or Diamond, both of those.
Okay.
Oh, they
Oh.
witnessed.
I do not have that in front of me.
Okay,
no.
Mr. Pringle's gonna put it on the
Okay.
camera. And there we go. Can we zoom in on that a little bit? Can you read that, Mr. Kaufman?
Not really. I can
Okay.
read that. I recognize my signature on it.
Okay, above your signature, can you read the name of your company? There you go.
All American Relocation Inc.
And then the certificate, then the certificate number there.
6003A.
Okay, so I think that's what you've agreed with the tariff bureau. So, anyway, I just wanted to get that
Yeah,
clarified.
my recollection to that was that we were told would most likely be our certificate number that they would add a letter to.
Okay, well,
That isn't the certificate. Yeah,
okay. That's what yours would be. Okay.
that's what I recall from that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think Mr. Pringle will work to check the records and maybe send a letter in after the hearing.
Okay.
Of course.
I noticed on your list of equipment that there was some trucks that were listed as cracker box. What is that?
That's, I don't really use that term. Some of our operations, those are the 12 to 16-foot little box trucks that we use.
Okay.
And I guess because they look like a cracker box, I'm not really sure. It's not a term I use. But our operations folks do, and that's where and that's literally the term that's in our system when they dispatch them. So,
Okay.
So it's just jargon.
And do you have a copy of your application with you?
I do not have that in front of me,
Okay.
no, ma'am.
Well, on the list of equipment, there's a far right column, and it has some names in it, and I'm just curious, do y'all are these owner operated trucks or?
Well, I mean, they would be our truck. We do assign trucks, for, accountability. So that those names could very likely be that.
Okay. Well, one of the names, they're individual names, but then about 4 places it lists Visionary Movers.
Yeah, then that's one of our owner operators. So that equipment would be, some of our owner operators have used some of our equipment, and some of them lease from us, and some, outright own their equipment. So it is equipment that we dispatch. So it's equipment we account for, because it's Mayflower qualified equipment. So it has our unit number on it, and can only be used by us. So our agreement with an owner operator is their equipment, their branded equipment can only be used, they can't go do a move or do something for a different entity or something like that.
And do you have agreements with those owner operators so that,
Yes,
that those
yes.
trucks are covered by your insurance?
They're on our insurance.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all listed on our insurance by their unit number. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you familiar with the bill of lading that y'all filed? I think that was filed on March 21st.
To a degree, yes.
On the
Long time in the industry, so I understand bill of ladings.
okay. Are you familiar with the bill of lading that is used for your intrastate moves in North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay. And in North Carolina, is that the Uniform Household Goods Bill of Lading and Freight Bill?
Mm-hmm.
And the what was filed in South Carolina also says Uniform Household Goods Bill of Lading and Freight Bill. Are you aware of any changes to either the front of that document or the terms and conditions on the back that would make that different from what is used in North Carolina?
It's very different. It's a different layout than North Carolina. And the verbiage is different.
Okay.
On the back.
Therefore, is it what is known in the industry, but since there are those changes, would that document be characterized as the industry's Uniform Bill of Lading and Freight Bill? I'm concerned.
We would have to operate 2 different documents.
Okay, I'm concerned about the use of the term uniform. For those shippers that may be familiar with the industry's Uniform Bill of Lading, would you object to removing the term uniform from that Bill of Lading?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Because I'm just concerned about confusion, because there may be different terms on the back than some experienced shipper may expect those to be what they're used to, and the terms are not. So, but you'll make that commitment to remove that term uniform, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that would not be a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a late filed exhibit that the applicant could supplement this bill, file another bill of lading without the term uniform on it.
We will reserve Exhibit 3 for a late filed bill of lading, updated bill or supplemental bill of lading.
Mr. Kaufman, thank you for your testimony today and for answering my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Kaufman? Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Mr. Kaufman, it is good to see you today. And Mr. Pringle, thank you for your introductory comments because you were right on that this is the first such case that we've had. My first question is an easy one. What's an ELD?
Oh, I'm sorry. See,
No.
we use jargon that we don't think is cracker boxes. That's an electronic logging device, which is required to run interstate now. Used to be able to use paper logs. You can no longer do that. It has to be an electronic log. But we do it, again, like I said, we do it on all our trucks every day because we don't know when one could potentially run interstate and therefore needed to have the backup record for that, the 7-day prior that's required on logging for any driver.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. I appreciate the education.
Yes, ma'am.
Part of the application included, from December 29th, included a letter from the North Carolina Utilities Commission. Do you have that before you?
I do not.
Okay. They just used an interesting phrase that I'll let the attorneys tell me if it's okay for me to just read it to you and let you respond to it.
Okay.
In the third paragraph, the Public Staff North Carolina Utilities Commission investigates complaints filed with the NCUC against household good movers. I contacted Krishna Rajiv, Director of Public Staff Transportation Division, and inquired whether there are any outstanding complaints against All American Relocation, Inc. Mr. Rajiv stated that at this time there aren't any open complaints against All American Relocation. My question is, are there past complaints that we should know about?
None that I'm aware of. I do not know of any complaints. And I mean, if there was, it'd be no different than any complaint that any type of service provider could get, whether it be these days online or through the Better Business Bureau or anything. We always address them. So if there had ever been a complaint against us, I'm quite confident in saying it was addressed appropriately and more than likely to the satisfaction of obviously the regulatory staff in North Carolina, as well as, you know, probably the customer.
Thank you. I'd like to turn your attention now to the Charlotte Van and Storage records that relate to their past work over a time frame. And this is a part of the December 29th application. Do you have those before you?
I'm no, ma'am.
Okay. My question is, and I'll just put it out there and see where this can go, is some of the, and I realize this is not your company, but it's the transfer that you're seeking. Some of the dates are hard to see. For example, I see January 20th, 2021, and that would be within a year of your application. I'm not, I see some other dates that I really can't make out. I see a lot of 2020 dates. Can you speak to, can ORS speak to, that's not for you to answer, but can anyone speak to the time frame of the work that Charlotte Van did related to our requirement that that work have taken place within, and I'm speaking colloquially, more within the past year? And I realize you've also asked for a waiver, and so I'm happy to switch to waiver questions.
Commissioner Williams, Jack Pringle, when Mr. Kaufman concludes, and if it's appropriate, and I would be happy to read the dates that the way I understand them, as well as, again, to provide a little bit of additional context about what the company is seeking with respect to this, what is, I think, colloquially referred to as the continuous operation provision, if that's appropriate.
Thank you. But Mr. Kaufman, while you're on the stand, is there anything you'd like to say about that continuously operation of this certificate that you're requesting to transfer to you?
Well, I mean, it would have been, by default, there would be a gap from, if I'm understanding the question right, just because they ceased operation and there's no way we would have used that certificate without, essentially illegally. So there's been no activity on our certificate by default. I mean, we were, maybe tardy in asking to transfer that because we really didn't, it's probably what we were going for when we initially, again, acquired his customers, stuff like that. Then we started seeing the need and that. So we're like, you know what, maybe we could do this to help fill the need, and in turn, obviously grow our business. But to me, that would explain a gap of that because, again, we just absolutely are not that kind of company. We would never have done something on that certificate illegally.
Well, one of the standards that we're required to understand is the hardship or the difficulty faced by your company that supports the use of a waiver. Can you speak to that?
I guess I'm not sure that I fully understand the question.
I'm asking why what the hardship is that supports our granting a waiver from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I think the hardship I don't know that the hardship for us is there's a loss of business opportunity for us, which I guess could be stated as a hardship. But I'd also think, to me, there's a hardship for the people in South Carolina who potentially can't get served, and all industries right now are struggling, to serve at full capacity in a post-COVID world. Our industry is no different. So I think, especially coming up on what we term our peak season for household goods, which is typically May to September, I think there's going to be a lot of individuals in South Carolina and potentially North Carolina who will need services like ours and won't be able to get them because there's not enough carriers.
Thank you. This has been a learning experience, and I appreciate your patience with my questions.
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Kaufman? All right. Redirect.
I don't think I have anything, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, sir. Attorney Moser, anything from you?
All right, just briefly, based on Vice Chair Belser's line of questioning previously regarding the certificate, I don't know if that is something that we want to designate a late filed exhibit for. I'm just throwing that out there as because of the questioning about the certificate. Just wanted to raise that.
How would you like to address that? I think the question of whether or not it's 6003 or 6003-A, do you need a late filed exhibit for that, or is that something you're just going to?
Well, in the context of providing the late filed exhibit that we are going to be doing with respect to the bill of lading and its titling, I could certainly address in correspondence attaching that, address that certificate question. But if you'd like to hold it open and, give it a place too, I'd be happy to do that. But it would be simple enough for me for the applicant to just provide it in the.
I'm fine with that.
In the cover letter.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Is that it, Attorney Moser? If there's nothing else, we'll ask ORS if they have anything they'd like to present here anything for this witness before he steps off the stand. I think Attorney Rainey said she has no cross-examination, but just want to check in with her one more time. Attorney,
No cross-examination.
no cross-examination. And nothing else for this witness, Ms. Moser?
Nothing else for this witness. I didn't know if ORS would like to reference the correspondence from March 28th, if they have anything they want to do with that. I just wanted to mention it.
Okay, we'll get to it after Mr. Kaufman steps off the stand. Mr. Kaufman, it seems or appears that there are no more questions for you. You may step off the stand and you are excused. Thank you for your appearance.
Thank you.
All right. Attorney Pringle, is that your case?
It is, with the exception of the potential colloquy I may have with Commissioner Williams about the bills of lading, but I don't want to go out of turn.
Got you.
Okay.
We'll let you get to that before we close.
Okay.
Attorney Rainey, do you have anything you'd like to present before the commission?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Chairman Williams. Good morning. Chairman Williams and members of the commission. ORS filed a letter on yesterday, March 28th, 2022 with the commission, and it has since been posted to the DMS under this docket. ORS conducted an inspection and a review of the company's equipment and record, and ORS is of the opinion that the company meets the requirements of fit, willing, and able under able for South Carolina Class E household movers. ORS reserves the right to alter its position if a material change occurs to the application after the filing of this letter. At this time, ORS moves to request that the commissioner moves this letter as the next hearing exhibit in this docket.
Thank you, Attorney Rainey. The ORS letter will be marked as hearing exhibit 4 and entered into the record as the same.
Thank you for your consideration, and Mr. Thomas McGill is present in the hearing room for any, commissioner questions.
All right.
That'll be all.
Before we get to Mr. McGill, I am going to recognize Commissioner Caston.
And I may have, thank you, Chairman Williams, and I may have totally misunderstood or didn't hear it well. The letter that you referenced, did you say March 28th or March 29th?
It was filed on the DMS yesterday. I think it may have been accepted today. I can double check and confirm that date.
Thank you, Ms. Rainey. The letter I have shows the 29th. That's all I was asking, but if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I definitely will.
All right, commissioners. Would any commissioner like to hear from Mr. Thomas McGill?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Belzer.
I would like to hear from Mr. McGill.
Mr. McGill, if you would take the witness stand and raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. McGill. Mr. McGill, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. McGill. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
I'm fine, thank you. Mr. McGill, do you by chance happen to have any information on the certificate number, which is at the subject of this proceeding for transfer?
Yes, ma'am. The current certificate number is 6003-A. And so upon approval of the commission and compliance being met, the certificate issued to the applicant would be 6003-B.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Thank you, Vice Chair Belzer. Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. McGill? Hearing none, Mr. McGill, let me ask this. Mr. McGill, is there anything else you would like to share with the commission?
I don't think there's anything additional that.
Since you're on the stand. Usually, sometimes we don't call you, but since you're here, if there's anything else you think we need to know, please share.
I think everything has been presented eloquently, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down from the stand and enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
All right. Attorney Rainey, anything else from you, ma'am?
No additional information. Thank you.
All right. That concludes ORS's case, or response, if you will. Attorney Pringle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the first housekeeping point is, given Mr. McGill's testimony, I'm presuming that now there won't be any additional information that I need to provide about the certificate number or certificate designation. Okay?
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thank
no
you.
additional information needed, meaning we shouldn't anticipate a late file exhibit. Well, you're still submitting a late file exhibit, but it will not include any mentioning of the certificate number.
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Commissioner Williams, to pick back up, and I realize, my apologies if this is, a little bit of legalese about this approach. The Rule 103-135 has what I've referred to, it has a continuous operation provision in it that indicates that for the 12 months, continuously offered and provided in the 12 months prior to the application for the transfer. That regulation also has a sentence in it, and that says that absent that showing, that demonstration, the commission may deny the application. I think that's an important term without going too far into statutory construction. The General Assembly's use of the term may as opposed to shall indicates that there is the discretion to decide whether or not to deny an application that does not have that information. Just by way of further background, there were no interveners in the case. Some of us have been around long enough to remember that these cases, not the transfer application so much, but the certification cases were litigated about as heavily as the Energy Freedom Act cases are, if you can imagine that. It's been it's been a long time, but the interveners with other household goods moving companies would come in and oppose applications and say there's not a demand for services. And one of the things that those companies would say is, well, you could get a certificate via transfer because that wouldn't increase the pie, or wouldn't increase the number of carriers. And so with that in mind, the request that I made in this application was that to the extent that a waiver is necessary, that's almost, it's a belt and suspenders. I mean, the commission has the discretion to grant the application absent a waiver because of that may, saying may because of all the other circumstances I've just mentioned, including the fit, willing, and able, and the applicant's testimony that there is a demand for these services. But that if you construed that as requiring a waiver, then we take the additional step and say, well, under these circumstances, it's not going to cause anybody it would certainly cause a hardship to my client, given that it acted and took steps and was doing the right thing by making sure it brought this application to the commission. And because sometimes it is difficult, I think, to provide 12 months right up and then get the application filed that next day, that it would be a hardship. But I think more generally and probably more importantly, it's the fact that there wasn't opposition from other parties to this, and that it would be in the public interest to certify a company that has shown the things that the applicant has shown today and under these circumstances. So I think as far as the bill of ladings go, or bills of lading, it's sort of like you say Whoppers Jr. or Attorneys General. The first one, by my reading, and this is looking at Exhibit 6, the first one that's labeled, I think, 25309, that would be January 20th of 2021. The second one, which is order number 25251, I believe I'm not so sure. I think that's January 7th, 21, but I'm not absolutely sure. And then they proceed, the third one, 24/3/20, is May 18th, 20, and they proceed from there. I could read, do you want me to read them all, or as?
Are they in there sequentially?
To some extent, not exactly. I'll go ahead. And
The
I'll
only
keep going.
reason to
Yeah,
read them
yeah.
would be if some of the ones that are unlegible actually support the idea of more continuous use more currently.
Well, I don't think there are any, by my reckoning, there aren't any that are after the first one that I mentioned.
Then that's fine.
Yeah, but the others do show moves throughout 2020 and a demonstration that the company was in operation. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
okay. And I think but happy to answer any other questions that you or others might have about this. I realize it's different from the what you've seen often and previously, but it's certainly has played a role over the years in these cases.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Pringle? Mr. Pringle, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Attorney Moser?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.